Indie Beacon Radio with the host, B. Alan Bourgeois.
Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Welcome to another episode of Indie Beacon Radio. This is your host, B. Alan Bourgeois, and I have with me Sandra Rhea, who has written a book. It's a kind of metaphysical or fantasy style, Willomena's Quest. First off, welcome, Sandra. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So let's start off with, what is Willomena's Quest? What does that mean?
Willomena is the heroine of the story, and she's on a quest in a land called Bleak, and Bleak is a terrible place. It's a very barren land, and she has found herself there. She's not really sure how. She's probably about 12 years old, but she's not sure of anything, really. So she's in Bleak, and she's just trying to make her way through, trudging one step at a time, and she stumbles upon a fairy with a broken wing. And in Bleak, friendship is a very rare thing, but they make friends, and they continue on the trudge together. And it somehow becomes a quest because the fairy, whose name is Merlu, has to get out of Bleak because Bleak will kill her. Fairies need lots of color and warmth, and Bleak doesn't have those things. So they start trudging along, trying to find a way for the fairy to get out of Bleak, and they make some more unusual friends. They meet a rhinoceros with a flashing red eye who's very protective, and they meet a prince who's silent. He can't speak. And everybody in Bleak has a certain kind of a wound, and they're all trying to find their way. So that's the basic premise of the story. It kind of follows what Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, would call the hero's quest, or the hero's journey.
So it's interesting you call the land Bleak, because everybody has some type of injury and stuff. So it does feel very bleak in itself. So I assume that's why you referred it to that name?
Yes. I really love the characters because they persevere, and they're so they're also decent, in the face of this difficulty, this kind of despair, this land of Bleak, and they somehow overcome that, and they thrive. And Willomena even finds her purpose in Bleak, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because that would ruin the end of the first book. So
now, in this particular edition, because you had written it before, there is, as you stated, 3 type of novellas all mixed into one book. Is that correct?
it's a series. It's a children's series, and we thought it would work to compile the first 3 books into a volume 1. And they really do work together that way. They flow very nicely together that way. And then I've also written another 3 that I'm getting ready to compile into a volume 2. So the series continues. But yes, it does seem to just work as far as making a book. And making a book is its own thing. Making
Yes,
a book is different from writing a book.
Most definitely. So you mentioned it's a children's story, and it seems like it's a heavier topic. So what age range is this really appropriate for?
Well, that's a good question, and I can give you 2 answers. We first thought that it might be for young adults, for like middle school and up, but I teach 3rd grade and I've taught 2nd grade, and I would say from 8, if you're anybody who's a good reader. I've got kids in my own 3rd grade class right now reading the book and loving it. So, and also a good children's story, and I'm not claiming that mine is a great children's story, but a good children's story will affect anyone of any age, even adults, especially because adults should be in touch with that child that lives within them. So it's really for anyone who can read. It can be a little bit dark, and I don't want to give away too much, but you have to know your own child if you feel like they're not ready for the kind of darkness that happens in this story. There is death in this story. That does happen. I'll just say that. But the depth psychologists and the mythologists will tell you that you shouldn't water down stories for children. That children can take it. Like fairy tales with the stepsisters cutting off their toes and heels to put their foot into a shoe. You shouldn't take out that bloodiness, because stories provide sort of a matrix or a net for children's fears. Children have those dark places in their minds, and a good story will help them hold that and process it. And all the depth psychologists, I'm quite sure, would tell you that's true. And I've found it to be true in my work as a teacher of children, young children.
Well, apparently it is a good book, because you won a silver medal in 2017 by Mom's Choice Award, correct?
Yeah. I'm very. That's very gratifying for me.
I'm sure it is. Now, you also mentioned that it is a series, so tell us a little bit more about what you plan on doing in the future with it.
Well, I never know, because I'm what people would call, what my writing coach calls a discovery writer. That means I sit down and I'm not sure what's going to happen when I start writing. So, but I can give you a few hints of what the other book. Willomena does get to travel outside of Bleak, and she gets to go into what I've called the land outside. And it's very beautiful there. It's mountainous and green, and the mountains seem to rise right out of a very blue ocean, and people are happy and purposeful in that land. And she finds her own home in that land, which is a little cottage that apparently her mother left her. And it sits on a bluff, and it's very beautiful. And so she gets to travel between Bleak and the land outside, and she still has adventures in the land outside. She's destined to help people, and I will say this: she is foretold in prophecy as the girl with the pure heart, and when she hears that, she thinks, well, that can't be me. I'm just Willomena of the long trudge. But she gradually grows into her role, and she realizes that this is who she is. She's the girl with the pure heart, and she has to help people and lead people. So she has many adventures, both in Bleak and in the land outside.
So the obvious question I haven't asked yet is, what made you write such a story like this?
That's a good question. Bleak came to me in kind of a vision, almost, well, about 20 years ago. Do you remember when Princess Diana died? I think it was in 1999 or 1998. And all I could think about was, in my imagination, which has always been very active, was this bleak landscape with those two little princes struggling against the wind, trying to make their way through because they were motherless. And that image never left me. And it took until like 2017 for me to sit down and I just started kind of free writing with that image and with this girl, this heroine, Willomena. And I really had no intention of creating a book or even a story, because a story has to have a beginning, middle, and an end, and mine certainly didn't at that point. And then I started really liking what I was writing. So I started giving it some structure and crafting it into a story. And that was how it all started. I've been writing all my life, but when I really started getting serious about my writing about 10 years ago, and finding communities of writers and teachers and coaches and that kind of thing, I was writing nonfiction, a lot of personal essay. And I wanted to write fiction, but it seemed like the fiction that I wrote was not good. I mean, I liked the ideas, but it just wasn't working. With Willomena, I love it. I love the story. I love the characters. And it's almost, dare I say, like channeling. The story just comes through me. It really does.
I fully understand that. I truly do. So we have just a couple minutes left of this segment. So you mentioned, again, it is a series and you don't know really where you're going with it. By chance, do you know how many novellas or full books you'll end up with, or is there any?
I'll tell you this. Right now, I've got this one, the first one, which is the first 3 stories, and I have written and revised the second 3 stories, and I also have written a story told from the point of view of one of the original characters, and the character is Prince Oliver. It's the Silent Prince, and I love the way that story unfolded because I realized writing it, it's like a love story. I mean, it's all about love, and I love that one the best. And the thing about it is that Prince Oliver is royalty, but Willomena is not royalty. She's a very plain girl. She's very simple. And so I love that particular story. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And then right now I'm working on a story about the previous generation of women, the mothers. Because Willomena finds that she has half-sisters, and so I'm writing about the mothers right now. And so I've got at least another volume coming out of 3. And then I've got Prince Oliver's story, and I've got this one about the mothers. And I don't know how I'm going to turn those into books because, like I said, making a book is a different thing than writing one.
It is. And I actually do have some questions about that, but we'll save that for the next segment. But real quickly before we leave, the cover of Willomena's Quest looks, to me, feels like it has a certain American Indian tribal feel to it. Was that intended?
Oh, I don't think so. My book designer, Mark Gillot, did the cover, and I was just so thrilled with what he did. I'm not sure what he made the ground. If you're looking at the cover, the ground is very cracked. It's just a dirt plain. And there's the rhinoceros in the background, and Prince Oliver is in the background, and there's a dog in the story too, and he's there. What makes you feel like it's American Indian?
Just, I would say right off the bat that the wheel in the front, and her long hair, her dark complexion, that was the initial. I mean, you can see like with Prince Oliver, he's got that long jacket of a middle ages and stuff like that. Just the initial look for me.
Actually, she's not dark complected. She's very fair, and her braids are blonde. So the braids were something that developed with an illustrator I worked with, and then Mark, my book designer, put her together, and I think she's perfect. Can you see she's got the fairy on her shoulder?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah.
So. Well, this is a perfect time for us to stop and take a break and let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back.
We Fiction is a fun, fast-paced writing contest for any author team to create a book based on what readers submit for plot, characters, locations, and even plot twists. Learn more about this unique contest at wefiction.dearindie.org.
Thank you for watching or listening to Indie Beacon Radio. Our sponsor, IndieLector.store, is the only bookstore that pays authors their fair share for book sales. Help authors to succeed and enjoy a great book by supporting them at IndieLector.store. Enjoy a 10% discount with coupon code SHOPPER20 at IndieLector.store. Coupon valid until December 31st, 2020. That's IndieLector.store, coupon code SHOPPER20.
Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
The 5th annual Authors Marketing event is coming to Granbury, Texas, July 24th through the 27th. Join us and learn from the professionals how to properly market and sell yourself and your books. Go to ame.authorsmarketingguild.com for all the details. That's ame.authorsmarketingguild.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back to the Indie Beacon Radio Show. This is your host, B. Alan Bourgeois, and we have with us Sandra Rhea, who's been talking about her book, Willomena's Quest, which is a fairy tale type story, but also a quest in itself for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different people. One of the people you were talking about was this silent prince, Oliver,
Yes.
is his name. Now, you mentioned that you had written a story separate from all of this, and you said it felt like a love story or a love letter. Why was that?
Well, because of the way that he loves Willomena. And you have to know the original story of why he was silent in the first place. It has to do with the death of his mother. So he had this great love with his mother, who he lost, and then he finds Willomena and he loves her. I mean, it's a very pure kind of love, but he loves her dearly. And I realized in telling the first story through his eyes or through his voice that it was actually this very profoundly but very pure love story, because it was all about love. And I just that was just very thrilling for me.
Okay. I was just curious as to that, so that's why I asked that. Now, you also mentioned a couple times how different it is from writing versus creating a book. So my question for you is, since you put 3 novellas together as one book, what was the motivation for that versus leaving them as separate novellas?
It was advised to me because nowadays it seems like if you're a writer and you want to put your work out into the world, you've got to have people around you. You have to have a team. And in my first attempts at publishing, I only had one person I was working with, and she advised me to bundle the first 3 books into a volume 1. And now I have a whole team around me. I have a coach, I have my book designer, I have editors, and I have community that, other writers that I write with. And it was through this team, everybody agreed that it would be better it just would make more sense to bundle the first 3 books into a volume 1. For one thing, it makes it thicker, so it will show up in a bookstore. That's what I was told. All of this stuff was advised. It was given to me through the knowledge and the advice of people who should know about these things, who do know about these things. I really don't know that much about it. It's been a big learning curve, this business of making a book.
It is a learning curve, and it continues to change in this world of publishing. And they were right as far as it making it larger to be seen on a bookshelf and stuff. So that was definitely correct. You have the next 3 in the editing process. Do you have a time frame when you're hoping to have that ready to be released?
I don't. I would like to go ahead with it, but I am meeting with my coach this weekend. He's coming into town, and I will have a one-on-one conference with him on Sunday, as well as take a class with him on Sunday. And he will, I think he will advise me as to what next steps will be as far as that goes. I would like to go ahead and put them out, maybe get them to the line editor by the end of the year, and maybe have another book out in the spring. That would be what I would like to do. But again, I follow the advice of people that I have great respect for in this business. I have been very fortunate to find good people to surround myself with who know what they're doing.
And that is very important, and I'm glad you have that. So you have many characters, and if you're like a lot of the authors that I've talked to on the show, we all seem to have characters talking to us on a regular basis. Do you have that happening?
Willomena talks to me all the time. Yes, I would have to say so. She talks to me all the time.
Does she drive you nuts? Say, you gotta stop.
She really doesn't drive me nuts. I just love Willomena. So no, she doesn't drive me nuts. But I do get a little bit squirrely if I don't have a chance to sit down and write, and let her have her time on the page. She needs out.
Right. And so you've talked about the mothers, and that you're going to be working towards a storyline of that aspect. My personal quirk is the daughter-mother relationship with Willomena and her mother, going on in your head, and are you feeling any trying to take one side or the other, or just letting them go at it?
Well, I'm always with Willomena on this. And I really can't if I tell you too much about that, it would be giving too much away. So while I want to tell you about that dynamic, I really can't.
That's perfectly okay.
You have to understand. Yeah, I would be giving away stuff that you need to read.
Right, and that's the whole point of having a book, is something to read, and we don't want to give away too much, so that's okay. Are there any other projects that you are working on?
I do love to work. I love to write personal essay, and I wrote a good one. I went to Boulder this summer for a writing retreat, and I thought I was going to be working on Willomena, and all I could do was write this very compelling personal essay that was coming up for me, and it's totally different than my work with children. So I did finish that, and I polished it, and I had it looked at by my team and by my community, and I did send it off to a journal, but I haven't heard anything back. I'm not really working on anything else. Every now and then poems will come to me, usually at the most inopportune moment, and I have to stop everything, because a poem must be written down as it comes to you. It just, anyway with me, a poem demands attention when it wants it. My writing coach says that poetry is like the illicit love affair of writing. So, and I have to agree with him. And I went to the Olympic Peninsula over the holidays last year, and I just loved it there. And when I got back, I found myself having, like in the middle of my morning when I was getting ready to go teach little kids, I had to stop what I was doing and sit down and write a poem. So things like that happen. But mostly right now it's about Willomena, really. That's the hard work. I mean, that's the real work, the meat of what I'm doing right now.
Now, a lot of authors have a tendency to put a little bit of them into some of their characters. Are you doing that in any respect?
I hope so. I really hope so. Because Willomena is, what do I want to say? She's courageous, and she has a nobility and a decency about her that I could only hope to have. So I hope that I can embody some of those characteristics that I find in these characters. That's one of the nice things about writing a children's book, is you can create these characters that have such great characteristics, character traits like courage and nobility and perseverance. So I hope I have some of those qualities.
Now, you are a teacher, and you have talked that this is for children. Have you thought of creating any type of workbook or something that helps inspire them to be more than?
Well, I do teach children privately. I teach public school here in Houston, and I teach a private workshop on Saturdays during the school year, and just whenever I can put one together. And I'm really good at getting children to write, and I didn't realize that it was such a difficult thing, but apparently it is. For me, it's not rocket science, but it's hard, and it seems like children are losing that ability to write. So yeah, I've talked to different people about what I could do on my website as far as maybe creating a workshop or a blog or something like that to offer children to get them to write, because I do know how to do that.
Okay, good.
That's one of my things is getting helping children to find their voice.
And that's great. With one of our nonprofits, we actually have a short story contest for grades 6 through 12, and we're in our 3rd year of that. So that's definitely something we encourage as well. So we're happy to hear that. We are at a point where we need to stop and let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back. We need to let the sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back.
Well, hello there, my friends. My name is Randy James, independent voiceover producer in the Dallas, Texas area, available to write and record a 30-second commercial, much like the one you're hearing right now. It's a great way to help increase awareness and exposure to your book title. It's easy to do. Simply call me and we'll brainstorm on a few ideas, and in a few hours, I'll whip something up and send you a digital file ready to use. Remember, call or text me, Randy James, at 214-762-1942.
The 5th Annual Authors Marketing Event is coming to Granbury, Texas, July 24th through the 27th. Join us and learn from the professionals how to properly market and sell yourself and your books. Go to ame.authorsmarketingguild.com for all the details. That's ame.authorsmarketingguild.com. Join Texas authors on May 30th in Seguin, Texas for the first Texas Authors Only Book Festival celebrating Texas Authors and Writers Month. Learn more about this fun family event at lonestar.bookfestival.network. That's lonestar.bookfestival.network, and join us at the Seguin Events Complex on May 30th.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back. This is your host, Beyond Bourgeois. You're watching Indie Beacon Radio, or you're listening to it on one of our many podcast systems. We have with us Sandra Rhea, and thank you again for being with us. We've been talking with Sandra about Willomena's Quest, Book 1, which is a 3-part novella combined into one book. And of course, she's got her new book she's hoping to have out early next year as well. So for people who want to get a copy of the book, where can they find your book?
They can find it on Amazon, and it's available through Ingram, and it's in the Boulder Bookstore on Pearl Street in Boulder, Colorado, and it's in Blue Willow, which is a children's bookstore here in Houston, and also it's available if you want to order it through Barnes & Noble in River Oak Shopping Center.
Okay, and do you have a website?
I have a website. My author's website is just Sandra Rhea, my name.com. And then I also, the Willomena website is on blissfullightpress.com.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned earlier, that you're able to get kids to write and stuff like that. So if
Yes.
there's any other teachers or other people that would like to see what your magic is, how can they reach out to you?
Through my website, probably through the author website. I am going to be putting together some things into my blog about topics for children, how it is going to be suggestive of how to get children to write. But the truth of it is, you've got to sit down and write with them. That's what the secret is, apparently, because for years I just couldn't understand teachers and parents who would say, well, I can't get my students or my own child to write. And the thing is, you have to write with them. Get them a journal, put a pencil in their hand, do the same, and write together.
Now, oh shoot, I had a question for you and I lost it. So for people who are wanting to get into writing, whether it be your middle school or younger kids or older adults or whatever, do you have any words of advice?
for children who want to begin writing,
Or adults.
or adults, both. What I would say is just get yourself a spiral notebook with a pen or pencil, whatever you like, or even on your computer. And in the morning, when you get up, start free writing. Whatever thought pops into your brain, let it come out through your arm, through your pencil onto the page, or through your fingers onto the computer. It doesn't matter. It's a good way to get the ideas flowing. And sometimes you might do something that's a little bit more than what we would just call a free write of unrelated sentences. You might start finding that you're keeping a journal, which is fine. But the main thing is just to write fast, without judgment, on that page every morning. It's almost like a kind of meditation. If writing is your thing, that's something to do, definitely. I make my kids do it. I've been teaching public school for 20 years, and I still make them do that every morning. First thing, they come into my classroom, and I always end up with a classroom full of writers. It works.
Oh, great. Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us on today's show. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing the new book when it comes out in hopefully the spring of 2020. And again, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creation.
Indie Beacon Radio with the host, B. Alan Bourgeois.
Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B. Alan Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild, LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B. Alan Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcord.